Speaker today is Bill Little. Bill Little is the chair of the Dallas chapter of SCORE Mentors. If you don't know what that is, you're about to find out. But Bill is an entrepreneur himself. He helps entrepreneurs and business owners build strong sales systems, sharpen their business strategies, and create marketing that connects to their customers. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time introducing him because he can do a better job, and he has a lot of content in a short amount of time to get this to you. But at the very end, it's not the end. It's just the beginning. So bring a warm welcome to Bill. Bill, thank you. Thank you
Great to
for
see you.
investing in our community, man.
Thank you. Okay, first rule of being a public speaker, do not trip on your way up to the stage. So we got that one successfully done. Microphone check. So let's talk about kind of why we're here. First of all, if you can't tell, I've got some good things and some bad things. I pace, so I will try and focus in one particular area, but if I'm in your way or you can't hear me, let me know. Second bad thing I do is, my dad was in the Marine Corps, so we lived all over the United States. And I think what I learned the most is to talk really, really fast, because in my dad's household, you have to make quick decisions. So when we would go to a restaurant on a road trip, the waitress or waiter would come up and say, well, what do you want? In my dad's world, you had to order immediately. If you sent them away, you had no idea how long it would take them to come back. So I learned to talk really, really fast and say, I want a hamburger with fries and a milkshake. So I talk really, really fast. So occasionally I'll ask somebody like Carol to raise their hand and slow me down a little bit. But I also like to be pretty informal. So we're going to have the opportunity to interrupt what I'm saying and ask questions. The only thing I would ask is when you raise your hand, give Clifton time to run over with the microphone so that those people live streaming can hear both the question and the answer. And if you get to, or if we get to where we're falling behind and we're not able to accomplish our objectives, we'll say let's hold questions till the very end. I live in Dallas, less than 2 miles from here, so we have all afternoon together. You can call me all next week. But Clifton mentioned one thing that we're going to really emphasize today, which is today is not today. Today is the start of a series. And that series is the first Saturday. Did we decide on a time? I think we said 1 p.m.?
1 p.m. first Saturday.
There will be a Zoom call, so I think that's March 7th, April 4th, and May 1st or 2nd, something like that. Whatever it is, first Saturday of the month for the next 3 months at 1 p.m. for a Zoom call. Hopefully it's all of us, because as Clifton mentioned, it's about writing things down, being accountable to yourself, but there's also a value in being accountable to other people as well. And that's what we hope to accomplish. So I invite you to come back virtually in about 10 days on the first Saturday of March, and then the second, third, and so on. A little bit about myself. I am mostly a big company guy. The smallest company I ever worked for had 4,000 employees. The biggest one had 45,000 employees. But when I retired from there several years ago, a friend of mine called and she said, hey, I'm getting a divorce. Can you run my ecological recycling company for 6 months? And I was like, oh, sure, how hard can it be? I'm used to working in a big company world. So I said, I'll be happy to run it for you. So she could focus on the divorce and getting her finances in order and the kids' schools change. And about a week and a half in, she calls and she's like, okay, we got a problem. I'm like, okay, I'm a big company guy. How hard can the problem be? And she said, well, we can't pay people because we don't have the money in our account from since I'm live streaming, I won't mention the name of the super big airport near her that was slow paying her. And I said, okay. At my big company, I didn't worry about payroll. There were 45,000 employees. I'm sure somebody worried about payroll, but there's always money in the bank. So her answer was, we'll just have to tell the guys they can't get paid. I was like, ooh, we're paying our guys $20 an hour. They are in the wind if they don't get paid. They got bills. So let's figure out what to do. And the answer, of course, was pick up the phone, call that government entity and say, look, if you want to support women entrepreneurs, if you want to support minority entrepreneurs, they don't have the cash flow of a multi-billion-dollar company. You got to pay them on a regular basis so that they can pay their employees. And ultimately, we got money in the bank. So that's a lesson for me. And it really started a passion for helping small business because I love solving all those individual problems that can keep you up at night with your own business. So I did that for about 6 months, and then I said, I need something else to do. So I'm the local chair for what's called SCORE. SCORE is a group of about 80 business mentors and workshop educators across North Texas. We do not have Fort Worth, but we go all the way from Texarkana to Amarillo on the other side. And chances are I've got an expert that either did it or is doing it for whatever kind of business that you are in. So I have a guy that is originally South African. He's 80, he's not watching the live stream, so I'm safe. He's actually teaching in South Dallas today. He's in his early 80s. He knows more about what's called SEO, search engine optimization, than I will ever learn in my entire life, because he started an online business that printed backpacks and trophies and trinkets and business cards. So he had to learn how to market that business across the internet. So that's the kind of mentor we can bring to the table. We have another mentor who worked for 35 years in retail at a variety of chains, including something like TJ Maxx. So I can help you find somebody that can help you along your business journey. It is a free service. It's funded by your taxpayers through the Small Business Administration. So as part of today's session, we'll share with you how to keep in touch with Clifton and I through Empower Series, the information on SCORE, any handouts from today that you might be interested in, copy of today's presentation. Make sense for everybody? Yes. And because I forgot my clicker at home, we will keep going. I do like a couple quotes from Martin Luther King, and since we're at the MLK Recreation Center, let's start with him. What's his most famous phrase? His most famous saying? Standing on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. I have a dream. How come he didn't say, I have a plan? Plans are boring. Plans change, however, and dreams usually do not change. So what I want to emphasize today is, as we talk about business plans, have a dream, but couple that dream with a plan to achieve what you want to do. The other one, of course, I stole for today's presentation is, you don't have to know exactly where you're going. Faith is taking that first step, but knowing that you can take the follow-on steps. So we'll steal a couple quotes from Martin Luther King throughout today's presentation. So where we're going today is to talk about why dreams matter, why plans matter, the value of being accountable for those plans, and ultimately how SCORE can help you succeed. Talking too fast, Carol? Every business starts with a dream, but your dream is not going to get funded. Let me tell you two quick stories. So if I approach Carol and say, Carol, can I have $750? I have a babysitting business. I'm going to invest in my business, and I'll pay you back. Carol's going to look at me and say, okay, I don't know. 750 is a lot of money. But if I go to Carol and I say, Carol, in writing, here's my history as a babysitter. Here's how I've done over the last couple months. Here's my plan to use that $750 to buy an advertisement in Highland Park Magazine to advertise my babysitting services. Here's my target market. I want to advertise to kids who are parents of kids who are in first grade through fourth grade, because I have a certificate in that. Can I have $750? Because here's the growth of my finances, and in 3 months I should be able to pay you back. Chances are Carol's going to look at that and still roll her eyes and not give me $750, but she's only going to think about it a lot more. So just because you have a plan doesn't mean you're going to get funded, but it allows you to tell a story better and allows you to have a chance of getting funded. Would anybody give me $750 on the second story? Maybe. My boss at one point, we had a company that did online bill payment. This is 30 years ago when you didn't pay your bills online. He was turned down 47 different times when he went to people asking for money to make his idea happen. Lucky for him, the 47th wrote him a check and got him started. But being told 46 different times, despite the fact that he had history, despite the fact that he had a business plan, despite the fact that he'd successfully run health clubs before, don't be worried about somebody saying no. Just give them the ammunition to find the next person who's willing to say yes. What is a business plan? We're going to start very slowly today. We're going to use the analogy of we're going to crawl first, then we're going to walk, and then we're going to run. I had a guy who wanted to start a trucking business for what's called short haul trucking. And he went to ChatGPT and he typed in, write me a business plan for short haul trucking in Dallas, Texas. And he sent me a 75-page business plan as his mentor. It took me an hour and a half to read the thing, and it really had no substance. It really just said whatever ChatGPT spit it out. It was lots of words, but it didn't actually. I wanted to hear from him. I wanted to understand his heart, why he was going to be involved in this business. What problem was he trying to solve? So if he came to me and he said, look, there's not enough short-haul drivers, and I can focus on this particular industry, driving between Dallas and Fort Worth from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., that's a targeted business. That's just not throwing crap up against the wall. That's being deliberate in what you're trying to achieve. So you really want to talk about what problem are you trying to solve. Carol, can I say about your business, generically? Carol said that ultimately she wants to help human resources departments involved in compensation use artificial intelligence tools to make their job easier. That's a great example of a customer problem. I forgot your name already. Audrey, thank you. Can I talk about your business briefly? Audrey has a dream that ultimately she wants to help coach women, and she has a particular structure with 7 pillars that she'll walk them through. That is a great dream, and it also says what problem is the person trying to solve. It could be a relationship problem. It could be a Christ problem. It could be a job problem. She's going to help solve those problems. You also have to talk, though, about what is your market? Who is going to buy your services? What companies are you going to approach with your AI solution? Because if you approach McDonald's with your AI solution, it's probably going to take you a lot of times to sell McDonald's and their, I don't know, million employees. But the problem's very big and they'll pay you a lot of money. You just need to prepare for a very long sales cycle. If you're going to approach Volunteers of America, Texas, which is a nonprofit with 400 employees, they can write you a check much faster. May not be quite as big, but they can get you started in the business. So think about who you're selling to, what market it is. And your goal, which we're going to talk a little bit about, and then your path to results. Any questions as we've been going? We need to practice at least once to make sure Clifton can get up and run with the microphone. So, plus we can also check the level of the microphone. Well, I think Clifton just did. I think the...
Check, check. Okay, I don't have a question, but I just want to test it.
We're good then. Thank you for checking the microphone. And you're a much better microphone runner, I anticipate, than Clifton will be. So there's many ways to start on your business plan. I think a big one is write it down. All of us have an idea in our head. All of us have probably 50 ideas in our head. Some of us probably got 50 ideas this morning in our head. But how do you hold yourself accountable for? And by the way, when I say write it down, I'm a technology guy. It's okay to put it in your iPad. It's okay to put it in the Notes app on your telephone. But the key thing is you want to have something that you can use as a framework to make future decisions from. So by writing something down, it's a better way of holding yourself accountable for it. Second thing you're going to want to do is say, I've written it down. I've written down my goal. How can I expand on it? Let's hear from the room. Anyone want to be our guinea pig on what is your goal? I've shared Carol, so it can't be her. And I've shared Audrey's, so it can't be her. Fair enough. But wait just a second. What's your goal? What's your dream?
My dream and my goal is to both empower employees as well as companies by aligning both company structure and mission with what their employees down to the most basic level are doing every day.
Okay.
And so is the employee empowered and enjoying their job? If so, they can give back to the company more. Is the company pouring into the employee to where they want to keep building the company vision?
I'm going to pick on you for a second, in a good way. Has everybody heard the phrase elevator speech? Raise your hand if you have not heard it. It's okay to confess. An elevator speech is the pitch you would give to somebody in the amount of time it takes the elevator to go up to where you're, whatever floor you have. So if you think about it, the best way to, like I forgot your name? Maria shared, is it took her about 40 seconds probably to share her entire goal. That's a great thing because you can say it in the context of one elevator ride. It's kind of like a TV show. If they run up to you with a camera and they say, why did you make that decision? If it takes you 5 minutes to answer why, you've generally failed because you've confused your audience. So be short and be clear. If they run up to Nico Harrison, who was the general manager of the Mavericks, and say, why did you trade Luka Doncic? And he starts giving a 5 or 10-minute answer, that's when you know it was a bad decision. So a lot of times your goal is going to be something that is very quick and very concise as the problem you're solving. Another person want to share their goal? Got the guts? The live stream people can't see your face, so you're good.
It's probably going to take me 5 minutes, but...
That's what practice is for, though.
So the question is my goals, correct?
Sure.
Okay, so just to clarify, my name is Alexis, and I am a lash specialist. So I work with lash extensions, and I've been in business since 2021, but when I started, I didn't have a plan. I just started, and I just decided to just figure it out along the way. So that's why I decided to come, because I don't have one. I'm literally winging it. But my goals, well, I would say my dreams, I think I've accomplished my goal, and that was to fill in the void in the industry, beauty services altogether. So esthetician, anything. I'm so sorry, I'm so nervous right now.
You're good.
But
you're actually making my next point, so it's helpful that you're doing it this way.
But my goal was to create a space where they are satisfied with everything. So customer service, also with lash extensions, the problem was retention. It didn't last. They wanted to spend their money, but have it to be worth it. And that was something that was missing in the industry. So I solved that problem because that's what I'm known for in the DFW area. But I decided to kind of move towards education because I got a lot of questions from other people who were in the same industry as me other than lash extensions. So that's when I knew that my education wasn't just about lash extensions. It was about being a business person, but winging it because I wasn't afraid to show my weaknesses or what I was struggling with. Habakkuk lashes.
Okay.
Yes. So I think being able to, what you just said, I want to be able to answer that question in 40 seconds.
Well, maybe I'd suggest to you a pivot. Fair enough. So you have a lash business, and it's successful, but you're also, it sounds like, pretty good at the advice business and helping other people build their lash business or their beauty business. Or I'll confess, I don't know what an esthetician business is, but I assume it's like, nails and those kind of things.
Yes, everything like beauty. Ladies love nails, hair, lashes, everything.
First of all, mine are heavily worn off, but I will confess to have gotten gel a couple different times. There's nothing wrong with your dream changing or your plan changing. And I think that's a key point is the lash business is only so big.
Right.
You can work 24 hours a day and that's it on lashes. And you can work 7 days a week in lashes and that's it. How can you expand? Well, you can do your lash business and give somebody else advice on their lash business. Right. Except you can give advice to hundreds of people, thousands of people, through channels like TikTok and YouTube, tens of thousands of people. And what your difference is you may not be the best at lashes, but it sounds like you're one of the best at customer service and treating the customer engagement the entire time successfully. So I think it's great that you started in a direction, but you're also willing to take a look at other alternatives. Yes. Because your plan ultimately is going to be something that changes. So I mentioned your dream does not necessarily change. But in the big corporate world, you're going to do a business plan usually every single quarter, certainly every year. We have what we call the AOP, the annual operating plan. And we would start in October and we would write down what we would do the following year, division by division. What markets are we going to be in? What customers are we going to solve? How does that change from how we've done things in the past? I'm not asking you to come to me every single quarter with a new business plan, but even in small business, once a year, once every 2 or 3 years, write down where you're going, because it helps you make decisions within a framework. Let's say your business plan said, I want to have a lash studio, and I want to have a consulting business that gives business advice. Let's say somebody approached you and said, hey, we really want you to start a business that cleans cars. Your business plan allows you to also say no to certain things. Because one of the challenges of being an entrepreneur is you can pull out that plan and say, boy, I want to be in the advice giving business. I want to be in the lash business. Do I really want to be in the car cleaning business? Do I have better customers? Can I differentiate my service? Can I be successful at that? So sometimes a plan helps you say no to opportunities. I'm going to pick on my friend who had the ecological company. I'll come to you in just 1 second when the microphone gets there. She called me one day and she said, hey, I'd like to go to Oklahoma to speak about recycling. I said, well, we serve Dallas and we serve Denton. Are we expanding into Oklahoma? Because we don't have a lot of money to begin with. Oh, no, I just feel passionate about telling the story of recycling. Okay, Lauren, how long is it going to take you to get to Oklahoma? Well, 4 hours up to Tulsa or whatever it was. A couple hours there, 4 hours back. Well, who's going to run the company during that time? Who's going to be selling Dallas-Fort Worth? Who's going to be collecting money in Dallas-Fort Worth? Who's going to be doing a better job with our trucks, our marketing, our advertising? What I tried to drive her back to was, your plan is to operate an ecological company for profit in Dallas. Why are we going to Oklahoma? So it allows you also sometimes to say, hey, it's a great idea. I'd love to chase every single dollar, but I got to say no to some things, because every dollar you're chasing in Oklahoma is a dollar you're not chasing in Dallas. And there was a question in the back. Make him run. We have to have fun on a Saturday morning.
Greetings, everyone. So I think it's simple. When you mention pivot, oftentimes maybe have suggestion, feedback, or input, because that way it could help you garner and master another thing to resell and to repackage. So my brain just skyrocketed when you said car cleaning.
Yes.
Because that same advice could be repackaged, but what you're doing is you're baiting people to give you information so you can resell it to them. Suggestion, feedback, and input. And then that way you're like, I could find somebody for you and I could charge you for being the fee of the service line.
Are you still talking?
My mind is racing.
Absolutely. It's a great question to remind people that sometimes your goal, your plan, is worthwhile to bounce off somebody else. So I'm going to pick on our volunteer one more time. Just because you have a plan doesn't mean that it's your plan. Usually, if you're going to be successful in business, it's tough. You're going to get rejected a lot. You're going to be like my boss who got turned down 46 times for financing. You can talk to your dog all you want, but it's usually helpful to have a support network. So a support network are people like a volunteer mentor that you might arrange through SCORE. Your banker, if you're big enough to have a banking relationship. Your accountant, if you have an accountant. Your lawyer, heaven forbid you need a lawyer, but they're often good people. So a big company has what? That ultimately makes those decisions. It has a board of directors. There's nothing wrong with your small company having an informal board of directors, unpaid preferably, so that you can say, here's my business plan. Where am I going? And I'm sorry, I can't read that far away.
30 minutes.
Oh, thank you. He's got to use a Sharpie instead. It's my old man eyes. My spouse would say it's my hearing that's the problem, not my eyes that are the problem. So everybody grab a pen, write down your business goal right now. That's my first step. What's your business goal? And I'll give you about a minute. Because once again, it's an elevator speech. If you can't write it down in about 75 words, it's probably too long. And raise your hand when you're done. How's that? I love the t-shirt. Next step, because most people in the room are done. For those of you on the live stream, you may be slightly behind, but don't worry about it. Next step is, what can you put into your business? I'd love to tell you can start a business for free, but it always takes something. It always takes your time, your money, preferably what we call OPM, other people's money. You may have resources. You may have, say, I've got all of the lash equipment to run a lash business. So the second thing I'd ask you to write down is, you have a goal, you have a dream. What can you use to support it? Money, time, training, vehicle, support group, favorite dog that'll listen to your business problem. And then lastly, who can help you with that dream? As I mentioned, it's very tough to be an entrepreneur. It's very tough to be in a position of getting told no all the time, of having to say no things, of realizing you don't have enough money in the bank account Friday to make payroll for yourself especially, not to mention your employees. So talk about who can help you, that network of people, whether or not that's Clifton or myself or Empower Series or SCORE or the Small Business Administration. Or I know an entrepreneur, she needed to buy a piece of land. She knew, because she wanted to build affordable housing. She knew the pastor at Highland Park United Methodist Church, and he said, don't worry about it. We will advance you, I think the number was $600,000 to buy that piece of land, and then she later arranged her financing and paid the church back. People that you know can be in all walks of life. When you start out small, they're usually going to be family. They're usually going to be friends. They're going to be people that you know around the community. That circle can expand, but who can help you with your dream? Is there nothing better than getting free labor from your friends? Everybody good with those 3 steps? What did I not ask you to do? I didn't ask you to go to ChatGPT, and I didn't ask you to produce 75 pages, and I didn't ask you to spend hour after hour after hour on your first business plan. You can grow from there, because what's our analogy today? We're going to crawl. When we're good at crawling, we're going to walk, and when we're good at walking, we're going to run. Then you've got to start thinking about, once I have my initial 1-page business plan, you got to start thinking about, what's my next iteration going to be? How do I make it bigger? How do I make it more detailed? And here, usually there's a branch for you to go down. And by the way, as part of today's session, we will send to those of you both on the live stream and in the room, templates that you can use to make your life easier. I think I have them in Excel or Word or both. So as follow-up for today, we will send them to you. You need to think about, is my next iteration of my plan going to help my operations? It's going to help me run the business? Or is it going to help me get funding? Because there's really 2 different things. If you think about how you're going to operate your business, your operations plan is going to be, what are my procedures? What are my marketing strategies? What are my differentiators? How can I find my customers? So I'm going to pick on, it was Audrey, right? How do you find customers for your dream? She might come to me, and she's welcome to answer the question. She might say, hey, my customers are all through my church, so I'm going to market to them in the church bulletin, and I'm going to ask if I can speak on Sundays or in the women's support group to be able to find them. Mm-hmm. She might say, I'm highlighting women 18 to 22, and the kind of woman that I'm highlighting is on TikTok 4.5 hours a day. So I'm going to create TikTok videos all day long. She might say, I'm going to target women who are, I'm going to pick on women like my mother, who are 85 years old. She can spell TikTok only because her grandson works there. But my mother would respond to direct mail advertising and to email marketing. So ultimately, Audrey's got to figure out in that operational plan, what are some of the tactics I use? We set our goal, but now we want to think about the tactics of, how do I market to those customers? So I'll give you some things a little bit later. But that's your operational plan. How do you operate on a regular basis? The alternative is, what's my funding plan? A funding plan is something also called a pitch deck, P-I-T-C-H. A pitch deck is how I'm going to approach investors. The person who's give me my $750 to invest in my business, in the example we used earlier. And that's a very different kind of plan, because what is the person who lends you money going to want to know?
When they're going to get it back.
When do they get money back? And by the way, more than 750, hopefully. So usually that's going to be a much more detailed plan, because it's going to talk about not where you want to go, but where you have gone, because it's going to want proof of the ability to pay back that loan. It's going to preferably say, I've been in business for 2 or 3 years. My babysitting business is growing. I did $250 the first month, and $500 the next month, and $750 the month after that. And therefore, you can be reasonably assured that you will get paid back. Make sense for the differences between a funding plan and an operating plan? Usually, by the way, operating plan, small business, maybe 2 pages. Bigger business, maybe half dozen pages. Funding plan is usually going to be about 45 pages, to give you a sense of it. And the template we send you will show you an example of each one of those 45 pages so that you can think through. Because often a funding plan is also going to say, it's great, Bill, that you're going to pay me back $750. What happens if you get hit by a bus? How do I get my $750 back? So who's on the hook next? Who are the officers of your company? Who are the employees of your company? How does the company go on if anything happens to you? That's important from a funding document point of view. It also talks in a funding document about how is the loan secured. In my example, Carol gave me $750, and she took nothing back from me. But if I want to have somebody give me $750,000 so I can buy a printing press to be able to print brochures, chances are the person who gave me the $750 wants to have some ability to claim that printing press if I don't pay them back, so that they have an asset, as we would call them. A lot of times they want me to pledge my car, my house, my 401k, my IRA, my firstborn child, whatever you have. My firstborn child, not worth all that much money. He's not the one who works for TikTok. I have a website we'll send out to you. I think it's thefundingtrail.com, but I'll clarify when we send out the items. This was created by a SCORE volunteer, not in the Dallas chapter, but in a different chapter. And it has both links to grants that you might pursue to start initial funding, but it also has business plan templates for an operations plan, an initial vision plan, and a funding plan. So we'll send you the link to the website. It is free. You do not need to register. You simply download. Works amazingly well. And it helps you get you started, because I'm saying a lot today, but having an example in front of you is, I think, going to be helpful for you as well. And I think it's thefundingtrail.com, but we'll double check it for you. What's in that full business plan? What's in that funding plan? There's going to be that mission statement, that business description, the market assessment, who am I selling to, goals, metrics of the history as well as the forward plan, my financial plan, an appendix. What's in the appendix? A lot of things like, what makes my business unique? Do you need a license to be a lash technician?
In the state of Texas, yes.
So one of the assets, one of the appendixes is, here's my certificate from the state of Texas. And I've been is it lash technician?
Yes.
I've been a lash technician licensed for 3 years, and here's testimonials. Maybe I'll print out people that went to Google reviews or to Yelp and reviewed my services. Because if I'm going to lend you money, the fact that I know people like you is much more helpful. Audrey, even though you're doing personal coaching, nothing wrong with setting up a Google reviews site so that as people have a good experience with you, they can share it. Carol, in the AI business, a little bit harder because you're selling to businesses, but there's nothing wrong with asking them to write a testimonial for you about what you did, the value your project created, or write a white paper that says, here's all the value we created, even if you leave out the name of the company you consulted with to make it anonymous. It shows the value of what you're doing. So those are some of the things you'll put in an appendix document. Questions, thoughts, comments on funding? But, sure.
Resources that you're going to provide for us give other examples of how we can show value if we haven't yet started. So I don't want to take up time if that's not where you want to go, but do some of the resources give us better examples to put in the appendix?
It's always good to have somebody put you on the spot. It is a good question because has everybody heard the phrase, what came first, the chicken or the egg? It applies in business, and I'll guarantee you your number one challenge you have when starting business, I have no money, so how do I make money? It's the hardest thing I try and answer for every entrepreneur because there's not an easy answer. There's no magic tree, magic beanstalk that's going to give you money or beans to get started. There are occasionally, if you're in the nonprofit spot, some grants, but you can also spend a lot more time writing grant requests than actually getting money because you'll be turned down probably 95% of the time initially. I always encourage people to start as small as they possibly can so they can get just one story of success. I'll give you a quick example. I have a woman I'm consulting with through SCORE, so for free, and she wants to start a nonprofit. And she has a great dream. Her dream is that there's a center in Dallas that has a series of social workers, and rather than going to the North Texas Food Bank for food and going to Parkland for medical care and going to DISD for educational support services, she wants somebody that can help you, connect you to every kind of service delivery that you might want to have. It's a great vision. It's a really complicated vision, however, because every one of those social workers wants to get paid. You want to get paid. The building that she's at has a landlord that wants to get paid. So the answer back to her was scale down your vision. Don't change your dream, but in your plan, let's talk about for the first year, let's rent space rather than own it. Let's you be the counselor and the connector to people. Let's deal with a very finite number of people coming in the door so you can make sure they receive the best possible service and write you reviews and tell you stories, because now she can approach the Meadows Foundation, the Communities Foundation of Dallas, and say, look, here's 5 people I helped last year. I did this on my own time. I did this without any resources. And here's 5 people that made a meaningful difference in their life. Can I have money to help 50 people this year? And can I have money to, down the road, once I prove those 50, to help 150? And then ultimately you end up, hopefully, with a scaled business. That's not an exact answer to your question, but it also starts by scaling down your plan, but not walking away from your dream. We talked earlier about your dream, and as what was the phrase we used? An elevator pitch. When you're seeking funding from somebody, it's a little more complicated. It's what we call an executive summary. It's 1 page, a couple paragraphs. How do I get the story of your business? And the common way to do it is to describe what particular problem you're trying to solve. So I'll give you one of the best examples I've heard. I mentioned my boss who founded the online bill payment company. His executive summary was, problem. I run a healthcare chain or a healthcare location, and customers always cancel on the first of the month when they have to write a check or when they have to come in and pay cash. So think 30 years ago. How do I stop that from happening? Well, investor, I've figured out through a buddy of mine that we can automatically withdraw the money from their checking account on a monthly basis or their credit card on a monthly basis. And that way they don't have to write a check. They're not going to cancel because they're not taking any particular action. They're a subscriber, not a buyer. Clear example in the executive summary. I used less than a paragraph of what's the problem? Too many cancellations in the health club business. What's the solution? How do I get the customer to sign up for a subscription where I'm taking the money out? Instead of them pushing the money to me, I'm pulling the money from them. And then solution. I'm going to start a company called CheckFree that's going to do this. We're going to be in the health club business. I'm going to partner with Chase because they have the technology I need. And I found a law firm that gave me a legal opinion that this is the right thing to do. By the way, 30 years later, Do any of us walk in and pay cash on a monthly basis to our health club or really any other membership? Everything is subscription these days. I don't give him credit for the subscription idea, but certainly applying that idea was helpful. Your mission statement, a little bit more than your goal, but it's why you exist. It's simple, clear, memorable is another part of your funding plan overall. Your market assessment. Who's my customer? What exactly is that customer? How many are there? And why am I unique in serving them? Why is Audrey going to be the best at serving her type of customer? Why is Carol going to be the best at serving her customer? Great tools for marketing assessments. And I'm going to pick on Lash Studios again, because I've done this before. When you go to ChatGPT, you can say how many Lash Studios are there in Dallas-Fort Worth, and what is what's called TAM, Total Addressable Market of Lash Studio Services. And it'll come back with a pretty good answer. So there are tools available. A lot of libraries have resources where you can look up how many businesses are in certain things. So if you want to be an AI consultant, how many AI consultants are there in the United States? That gives you a sense of how big the market is. Would also tell you, by the way, in the lash business, it's a good business, it's a good job, but it's hard to what we call scale. And that's why being Lash Plus is probably a better solution over time than being just a lash technician. Because your ability to differentiate through customer service is really what allows you to sell something else. What are your goals and measurements? The person who's lending you money wants to know how they're going to get paid back, but they also want to know your success story. If you're running a nonprofit, how many lives have you changed? If you're running an AI consulting business, what's your potential, what's your prior successes? Show me projects that you've done well. If you're involved in women consulting and coaching, how many people have I helped through my 7 pillars and how are their lives meaningfully different? Financial plan. I've purposely left out of my presentation today a slide that shows all of your finances. I can certainly help you with that offline. We'll give you a template to do it. But don't bother trying to project everything now in your initial plan. Only need that when you're going for funding, because otherwise it doesn't really care. I don't care what your finances are. So don't spend a lot of time building a super fancy Excel spreadsheet unless your business requires it. But know your basic numbers. Where's your dollars coming from? Where your dollars going out the door? Including the Cowboy Carter tour. I did not see that. I saw the prior. What was the prior tour? Not Cowboy Carter.
I don't remember.
All I know is I was at AT&T Stadium with 100,000 of my closest friends. And if you do choose to spend the money, she is probably one of the best live that I've ever seen. We have a question in the back. It was the what? On the Run 2 tour. I just remember I had to buy a silver outfit.
Oh, that was Renaissance.
Renaissance, that was it. I have in my closet somewhere a silver t-shirt. Lori has a silver top, maybe. I don't really remember that well.
I have a question.
Is the question, why am I spending so much time with Beyonce?
Now, I just want to recap something. So,
Absolutely.
So you just went through sections of a business plan, right? So, you know, we're about to get to a section where after this, it would be beneficial for people to identify some kind of action before the 7th of March, right? So the sections that you just identified, if you look at the executive summary, the mission statement, the marketing assessment, the goals and measurements, you know, you bypass the financial plan for now. In the appendix you'll talk about. But if you can just start putting down what's in your head on paper in those categories and not worry about the perfectness of it, but just begin the process of putting on paper your vision, that will be beneficial. And I'll tell you real quick, when I started the Empower series in 2011, all I had was an idea, and I had no money. And so I had to go and talk to people about my idea and, you know, ask for a certain amount of money to manifest what the program I wanted to do. So The gentleman I worked with was Will Murphy, and he talked to me about it's important when you're talking to somebody to be able to put on paper visually what you have in your mind, because if you just talk to somebody and then you leave that conversation, they're not going to retain that. They got all kind of other stuff to think about. So if you can begin the process of putting on in word and on paper this vision you have in your mind, that's a great, great step. And I just wanted to recap those sections and say you don't have to be a writing scholar, but just begin the process of putting on paper these ideas that you have.
I will not, my mother was an English teacher, but I will not score you on your writing. What I will score you on is pass, fail, is it in writing? I deal with so many entrepreneurs. I have a dream. That's awesome. Dream's got to be a plan. How many times did you get turned down when you first started asking for money?
They were like, hey, okay, well.
Microphone.
They were like, okay, how much money do you have? When you get somebody with some money, then come back. If you get somebody that's going to invest. And I talk to a lot of people, and it's just, I'll tell you the story at some point, but when I ran into Irv Ashford Jr., he was with Comerica Bank at the time. I set up several meetings with him. He canceled, and then he just walked into my office. I was working at Chase, just sat in my office and said, okay, tell me, what do you want to do? And I had to do my elevator speech. And so I wasn't really prepared for it, but I was just passionate about what I wanted to have accomplished. And after that conversation, he said, well, I'm around 95% sure I'll help you, but give me a call in a week. And that was the beginning, so.
Perfect. I'm going to give you a little bit more. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to show you what to do. So go to, right now, not right now, thefundingtrail.com. Upper right-hand corner, you'll see a spot called Business Plans. Click on it. Scroll down and you'll see a financial forecast template, a 2-page business plan template, a detailed business plan template, those operational plans I talked about, and an investor pitch template. So my ask before we get together on the Zoom call is go to that 2-page business plan template.
What's the website again?
thefundingtrail.com, and we will send it out to everybody. So I'm going to pull it up right now just to show you. Let me make this a little bit bigger for everybody. This is my ask by the next time we get together. 2 pages. You can write down 2 pages. I already had you do your goal, what assets you bring to the business, and who can help you. That's easy. You can easily do 2 pages in the next 10 days. What's 3 to 5 sentences about your business? What's the problem or opportunity you're trying to solve? Notice, by the way, this doesn't look beautiful. Doesn't have to look beautiful. What's the solution to those problems or opportunities? What's your management team? What's your business model? What's your marketing? What's your traction and milestones? What's your startup costs? And what are your risks and challenges? If you only do half that, I'll still give you full credit. But the point is to take your ideas from today, and before March 7th, I should not go off memory like that. Before our next session, come back with the 2-page template completed. You can send it to me ahead of time. You can send it to Clifton ahead of time. We'll give you the advice on it. If you only do half of it, you'll still get a passing grade. Questions on it? Everybody can do that? I'll put peer pressure on there. Raise your hand if you can't do that. But I don't want to abandon you. There's people available to help you. So if you go to score.org/Dallas, you can request a mentor in the local area. Our first mentor assigned to you will just listen to you. They'll ask about where you're trying to go, and if they can help you, they will. If you have very specialized knowledge, like, boy, I really need a search engine optimization expert, they'll hook you up with Stan Booth, who's the expert in that. If they say to you, I need a retail expert, we'll reach out to Don Walter, who worked for, I think it was TJ Maxx for 35 years. By the way, plenty of our mentors still work. I'm also the Dallas chapter chair, coincidentally. So if you want anything else, don't hesitate to email me directly and we'll hook you up with the right person. But as I said, we've got about 80 mentors. I even have a guy with an agricultural economics degree if you want to start a calf and cow operation. I actually don't know what that is, but he can help you get a loan through the Farm Credit Administration. We have a question in the audience.
Yes, my question is, for those of us that don't live in Dallas, what would be resources for SCORE? Is it still reach out to you and then you filter us somewhere else?
You can reach out to me. You can request a mentor anywhere in the country. Most mentorship actually is via Zoom and WebEx and Google Meets and so on these days, so you really don't need to be near the person that you're talking to. In fact, I've probably only met with 4 or 5 people face to face. So if a person in Dallas works for you, if a person in Fort Worth chapter works, that's fine. If you find somebody in an island off Maine, they'll still be happy to help you. But if you have specific questions, you can reach out to me. And let me give you a good example of that. There's often partnerships that occur. So I have a woman through SCORE who wants to import a craft made in a foreign country by women in that country, and the craft helps the women earn economic dollars. It's a relatively poor country in this particular area, and she wants to sell them to home furnishing stores. So I'm like, I can help you with your business. I can help you import. I know nothing about selling to home furnishing stores. Wouldn't you know, there is a mentor in the SCORE network who lives in North Carolina who has a store called Celadon, and Celadon is a high-end home furnishing store. So I emailed him to say, hey, can we jointly help out this client, as we call them, and educate her on how do your buyers buy things for your home improvements, for your home furnishing store? Do they go to trade shows? Do they watch TikTok? Do they, like my mother, listen only to email and to direct marketing? So how do you find those kind of people? And he was able to provide the advice to that particular entrepreneur. So the other one is, as we mentioned, for follow-up, first Saturday of each month at what time?
1 p.m.
1 p.m. Zoom invitation from Clifton to be able to help you. That concludes everything that I had, with the exception, of course, of, and I will not read the disclosure, as I mentioned, your tax dollars pay for parts of SCORE. So the Small Business Administration, which has an office in Euless, Texas, is a great resource for you. And while they do support everything I've told you, everything I've said is not necessarily their words, so they can't sue me. Questions, thoughts, comments as we come to conclusion today?
There are also partnerships through colleges and universities, correct?
There are partnerships through colleges and universities. I'll give you a couple other specific examples. Dallas College has what's called a Small Business Development Center, SBDC. I think it's at the El Centro campus, but I'm not certain.
Bill J. Priest. Bill J. Priest.
Bill J. Priest.
It's like right across the street.
Okay. It's at the Bill J. Priest facility. Another example, if you're a veteran, University of Texas at Arlington has a Veterans Business Outreach Center, VBOC, that provides advice for veterans. And I'm drawing an immediate name of the woman there, but if you send me an email, it'll remind me, and she's excellent to work with, Ashlyn Simmons. There are plenty of resources available outside of the Small Business Administration. There's a group that's funded largely by Goldman Sachs to help women entrepreneurs. And I think they have something like, it's $1 million something, and their dream is to make things easier for women. There's a program called 1 Million Cups as well that meets, I think, one Wednesday a month at the Comerica facility at I-30 and Grand Avenue. So there's plenty of support groups available for you. Another great one is the DEC network, DEC, originally stood for Dallas Entrepreneur Center. They're at the old Redbird Mall, and they have both a co-working space that you can have a membership at, as well as business support services. They do a lot of networking. They do a lot of pitch competitions that allow you to help refine your story. And I'll give you a last one, which is if you go to Southern Methodist University, SMU has what's called the Spears Institute for Entrepreneurship. They're mostly focused on SMU students, but they do help the community as well. So there's plenty of resources available. And if you send me a note, or if you send Clifton a note after today, between the two of us, I'm sure we can find plenty of resources. Can't necessarily send you to a guy that's going to write you a check for $600,000 to buy your property. But churches also are a great source of finding that team that is going to support you. That attorney, that banker, that lawyer, that accountant, that sometimes pastor, and sometimes it's the guy that can write the check.
Yeah. So one of the things, what Bill just mentioned is there's 4 resource partners of the U.S. Small Business Development of the U.S. Small Business Administration.
Correct.
And SCORE is just one of them. SCORE Mentoring, and that's a national organization. There's local chapters. There's a Dallas chapter, Plano chapter, Fort Worth chapter. And so there's over 300, I think, chapters in the United States. There's a whole bunch of them. I don't know if 300 is the right number. But so this is not just a Dallas thing. This is a U.S. thing. There's also, as Bill's mentioned, the Small Business Development Center, which is usually housed at community colleges throughout the United States. There's the Women Development Center, and then there's what's called VBOC, the Veterans Business Outreach Center.
Yes.
And so those 3 resource partners is not just locally here in Dallas, it is it's U.S. nationwide.
That's correct. So for instance, North Texas does not have, and I don't know why, a women's business center, but other areas of the United States do, and they'll be happy to help you.
So staying connected, the Empower series, the problem that I see is that, sometimes people are hopeless. You have ideas and dreams, and you want to acquire something or be something different than where you are today. And so there's a gentleman named Shaka Senghor who was in prison. He was in solitary confinement, and he had a dream to be an author, and he wanted to be interviewed by Oprah, and he didn't even know if he was going to get out of prison. But when you fast forward and look at the work that he did, he's now like Oprah is on his cell phone, right? They're tight and they're buddies. So the problem I think is that there's a lot of people who are hopeless. They think that they're alone, and they're not aware of the resources that are around. So one of the problems that the Empower series solve is that we deliver hope, inspiration, education, and more importantly, connecting you to the resources that are around you that you just don't know about. Some people do. So Build is one of those resources. The people sitting around you is a resource. So it's individuals, it's organizations that can help you take that next step to achieve your goal. And I'm just so happy, Bill, that you have decided to take a portion of your life and pour into the Empower Series community.
It was this or play pickleball, so I'd rather do this. I'll close with 2 quotes. If you came in off Malcolm X Drive to Pennsylvania to park in this parking lot, I can't remember the exact quote, but there's a quote from Malcolm X on the wall. Nothing wrong with being a criminal. The problem effectively is staying a criminal. And I butchered his quote. But the point is, change your life. Take advantage of the opportunity. And I'll steal the last quote from the back wall so I can't screw it up, which is, if you can't do great things, I can do small things in a great way. So we'll close with Martin Luther King, since we're at the Martin Luther King Recreation Center. But I love that quote as well. It's about putting down the steps on paper to do small things. What's my goal? How can I support it with what I have? How can I get a network of people to help me? Your homework by the first time we talk is to complete that 2-page business plan. Even half done, you'll still get credit. And we'll look forward to holding you accountable, but also hearing your story about how you're growing your Lash business, how you're growing your coaching business, your AI consulting business, or whatever other business that you would like to get into. So with that, thank you all very much for your time. Feel free to ask for help, because we'd like to be part of the network that assists you on your journey.
Give it up. So this is not the end. This is the beginning. So for those of you who are online, I want to thank you for sticking in there. Email me at thrive@empowerseries.com if you want any links to the video, which you're watching now. If you want any of the handouts, please email me at thrive@empowerseries.com. Also, if you want to volunteer, because like I said before, nothing of significance can ever be done alone. All you got to do is text volunteer to 214-225-6337, and you'll get a form to fill out. We definitely need in-person volunteers, but we also need virtual volunteers as well. So please, if you want to volunteer, just text volunteer. If you want to give of financial resources and donations, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. You can also text, give, or donate to 214-225-6337. But in any way, don't sit on it. Take action. Do the homework. Mark your calendar for March 7th at 1 p.m. Central Time. If you email me, if you're watching online, you'll get the information. If you registered, I already have your information, so make sure I've got all of your information, because this is a group that's going to take a step, right? We're going to put our vision on paper. We're going to manifest it. We're going to let the world know and the universe know that we're serious. We ain't playing, right? We're going to make a difference. And so 3 months from now, we're going to be in a totally different place. So I want to thank you. Thank you again. As we sign off, be empowered and inspired to thrive, and I'll check with you later.